Hey everybody, how's it going? Force here. Today I want to talk with you briefly about a little thing that I'd like to call the hacker's dilemma. There was a post that went up earlier today that I brought up a really interesting conversation about the idea of what do you do if there is a hacker on your team? How do you respond? Certainly believe that some of you out there have experienced this as well, and I'm really interested to get your guys' thoughts and feedback on what you should do in this situation. So let me lay it out here. You hop into a game of competitive, you're trying to win, you're going to play your best, you're trying to climb the ranks, all that stuff's great. But then what happens if all of a sudden it appears like there is a hacker on your team? Now, besides the obvious situation of you should report that person so Blizzard looks into them and hopefully eventually gets them banned, what do you do about that particular match? Now, it's been deemed as a common courtesy amongst the community to try your best if you are in a situation where there is a hacker on your team to try to coordinate with the other team and force a draw. You of course do this by you and the rest of your teammates who aren't the hacker neglect to play essentially, so it is the entire enemy team against just the hacker, and even if they're hacking, they're not going to win a 1 vs 6. And the goal of this is to kind of nullify the match. You don't get a dirty win by winning with a hacker on your team, and the enemy team doesn't lose just because you had a hacker on your team. So both teams get a draw, essentially nothing comes of it, and everyone moves on, reports the hacker, and goes about the rest of their day. But the issue here is that there are 3 problems if you are in this situation. The first problem would be identifying the hacker. Now, it's one thing just to take the opposing team's word for it, and if you are on the opposing end of a hacker, sometimes it can be easy to tell through the kill cam if you see them like insta-locking headshots in ridiculous manners that's kind of inhuman. But even then, the kill cam isn't always super reliable. They might just be really good. So if there's a situation where the whole enemy team is like, hey, you got a hacker on your team, you can't necessarily just take their word for it. That's not really a good way to go about things. It would have to be so blatantly obvious, like they get multiple headshots back to back to back several times in a row. Something like that that's kind of inhuman, doesn't make a lot of sense, and really feels like, yeah, this person clearly must be hacking. Even most hackers won't do something so blatantly obvious. So there's the first problem. The second problem is the simple act of trying to draw a match has gotten a lot more difficult. Blizzard has implemented several mechanics as time has gone on. Most recently, they added mechanics to capture points to make it even harder now to get a draw. Obviously, the further team that pushes the payload is going to win a match, and now the team that has the most progress on capturing a point is going to win the match, even if neither team fully captures the point. So with all these mechanics, which are there for good reason because draws are annoying when both teams are playing seriously, it's much harder now to rely on drawing. And then on the flip side of that, let's say that you identify a hacker, the enemy team is confident, you are fairly confident, and then you agree to a draw. You then have to rely on the opposing team to live up to their end of the bargain. So let's say the opposing team gets the final round in a match, and you both agree to draw, so your team doesn't do anything, you let the hacker try his best and lose against the opposing team, you don't capture the first point. And then it's the enemy team's turn, and even though you've agreed to it, and they're saying like, yeah guys, let's do a draw, they might go back on their word. If they see an opportunity to win, they may very likely take it, in which case you trying to kind of do the right thing will end up getting screwed, you'll take the loss. And then I think the third problem here is this idea of throwing a match. Now, we can all agree that hacking is bad, people shouldn't do it, and we want to get those people banned and punished because they ruin the competitive experience. But throwing matches is also bad, and for the reasons that I mentioned above, because identifying a hacker in the middle of a game can be very difficult, especially if you don't get to see the kill cams to see kind of that inhuman play. The fact that you'd have to rely on your opposing team and that drawing in general is much more difficult. If your next fallback is to say, you know what, we got a hacker on our team, it wouldn't be fair for us to win, so now we feel like we have this moral obligation to throw, but throwing is also kind of a behavior that we could probably all agree it's not good. It's not good for the competitive nature, it's not fair to the rest of your teammates, because again, you can't be 100% sure in the middle of a match that that person on your team is a hacker. And then what about the rest of your team? That also poses a question. There's like no best answer here in this particular situation. And then we also have the fact that there's a lot of people out there, we can argue for fairness in a competitive situation. There's a lot of people who don't even care about fair competition. Because the competitive system in Overwatch does have these tangible rewards that people desire. Of course, I'm referring to the gold golden guns, because that exists, there's some people who just play competitive for that very reason. They're not looking for fair and balanced matches. They're just trying to climb as high as they possibly can and get as many competitive points as they can so they can purchase more golden guns. So it's a really interesting situation. I saw some people talking about it today, and I thought I'd kind of bring it up to you guys and get your thought on the matter. What would you do? Me personally, number one, I would have to be fairly certain that the person was hacking. At that point, I guess I would try to coordinate a draw with the opposing team, but at the same time, I would be very wary of them possibly going back on their word, especially if they get the final round in the match. There's nothing to say that they're actually going to live up to it. They might just take the free win. In fact, I think it could very well happen. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Would you try to draw, or are you just going to play, report the hacker so that hopefully they get banned eventually, and take the win? Even if it wasn't the greatest way to win a match, would you just do it anyways? Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you have a good one, and until next time, I'll see you later.